This screencast will show you how to use the template that I have on Teams for your puzzle and how to add layers. So the first thing you're going to do is go to our assignment on Teams and look under Assignments, and you'll see this Illustrator template in the Laser Cutter puzzle assignment. If you click on it, it will ask you if you want to download it, and click on Download. It shows up in the bottom left corner, and when you click on it, it should open it automatically in Illustrator for you. This template's important when you're creating things for the laser cutter because it reminds you of the different line colors that you need to use when you're designing something for the laser cutter. And it sets those colors in there for you to select. And those are the only colors you should use when you're designing for the laser cutter. And it gives you reminders about the line or stroke size as well. So those need to be set specifically. And depending on the color you choose, it's going to tell me what you want the laser to do, and the laser will read it by different colors. So if you draw something in here, first of all, let me show you. Over on the right here, you see properties, and you'll also see layers. And you can see this already is set up with a couple of different layers. The layer you're going to start working on, and then the layer that has your reminders on it. So right now that layer is locked, so I can't do anything with it, but I can see it. When you go to save your final project, you can click the I and you'll no longer see the reminder. You can do that anytime if you don't think you need to see the reminder and you just want to see your workspace better. You can always go back and put it back there as well. So when we're designing our puzzle, you're going to use multiple layers. When you want to add a layer, down at the bottom here, if you scroll over the one that looks like a page, it says Create New Layer. So now I can see I have 2 layers, and layers you can drag and move around if necessary. You can lock them if you don't want them to move while you're working on things. And you can hide them if you don't want to see them. You just want to make sure that whatever layers you want cut when you're done are showing, and the ones you don't are not showing. So we're going to start by drawing a little guide around the edge, just to give us the outside size that we want to stay within. So the biggest size you want is 6 inches by 6 inches. So I'm going to grab the rectangle tool, and I'm going to draw a rectangle, and over here under properties I can change it to 6 inches by 6 inches. And since you're using the template, this one wants the proportions. So I don't want that. So since you're using the template, it should already be set to inches for you. So this is my guide that I don't want my puzzle to be any larger than this. So if I look at the colors over here, the stroke colors, and look at my options, they tell you a little bit about them when you scroll over them. So it says edges and guides should be yellow, so I'm going to make it yellow. And so this is not going to be cut. This is just showing me I don't want it any larger than this. And then you can design your puzzle within that. So when I'm done with my puzzle, I'm going to hide the guide layer, and I'm going to hide the reminders layer. So I'm going to start working on the next layer, and this kind of starts to depend more on how you're designing your puzzle. One way you can do it is by bringing in a puzzle template that you could use to cut that you find online. So if you found one and saved it, you can go to File, Place, and I believe I should have one in here. Right here. I'm going to click Place. And now I can see that this is too large, so I can go to my properties, and I'm going to make mine about 5.75 by 5.75, so it'll just fit right in there. I can move it around, And now I see I don't see it, so I can always change my layers where they're placed to put one on top of the other. So now this is just a JPEG or a raster image, and I want to change it into a vector, which we did with your stickers as well by using the image trace. So I'm going to try image trace, and I'm going to try line art for this one. And that worked well for this one. So I'm going to leave it like that, but expand it. So now I can see all of my lines. But I'm going to have to make sure I have them set correctly. So if I go to stroke, what I'm going to want is for each of these lines to be cut, because these are my pieces that are going to cut all the way through to form my puzzle. So if I scroll over, I see green is scribe and red is cut. So I'm going to choose red. The other reminder I can see over here is to check all stroke widths, that they should be 0.25, unless we're doing etching with the raster. This one I can see is 2 right now, that's too large, so I'm going to do 0.25. And that's important because the laser, if it's larger than 0.25, is going to go over those multiple times if they're thicker, and that's not what we want it to do. And this, I can't see this very well, but hopefully that will still work fine. It shows up on here anyway, so the next thing I would do for this type of puzzle would be to find a picture that I want to put and etch onto here, or scribe onto here, which means it's not going to cut all the way through. The design is going to be made from burning in the wood. So I'm going to make another layer, and I actually want this layer underneath so I can still see my cut lines. And then you would need to have the picture saved, and you're going to place it. So I'm going to try this tree one, place it, and again it's too large, but I can go in and change the size. And then I'm going to play around with it a bit to make sure it's going to work. So again, this is a raster, and I want to make it a vector. So I'm going to do my image trace. I'm going to try black and white logo, and that works. So I'm going to expand it. And then I'm going to see if it allows me to change my strokes on here. It did. I'm going to ungroup it because there's some parts of this that I don't want. So one thing I can do too is lock this layer so I don't accidentally mess up my puzzle. I can just select parts of this. So I don't want that outside line on mine. I also want to, let's see, I'm going to lock my guide layer as well. So I'm only using this layer. Now I can select it all, and I see it has a path on the outside. I don't think I need. Okay, now I can select it all, and I'm going to go to my properties and make the fill none. So what this is now going to do is using all of this as lines, and I can try these at 0.25. And what this would do would just be what's called scribing, which is slightly different than etching. It's still just tracing around lines. It's a lot faster than etching, which goes back and forth, but it doesn't cut all the way through. So I'd still see the design, but it would work much more quickly. So this would be one way that I could do it. I can look here though and see it looks a little big for my puzzle. So I'm going to adjust the size just a little bit. Make sure it fits just right onto my puzzle. I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller. that'll work better. So now what I can see is that I'm going to cut all the way through the red lines for my pieces, and I'm going to cut part of the way through, just burning into the wood the design for my picture, and I will have a puzzle.